do libations when we come to do the drum circle this evening.
Okay.
And that's what I am. In the Spanish culture, it's called Santeria. In the African traditional coverage, it's called, well, we're just paying tribute to the ancestors.
Yeah.
And it's part of our tradition. Come on.
I was just doing a project where we was talking about these right here, the cowrie shells, and their purpose and how they was also used as currency.
Yes, they sure was. That's our money, Russia. But I gotta set this, and I gotta set my vending space.
Let's go down to the water.
My name is Ahmad Ward. I'm the Executive Director for Historic Mitchellville Freedom Park. We're here at the 9th Annual Juneteenth Festival here at our park. This is an important thing for us. Our tagline is where freedom began. So it's an important place for us to do Juneteenth celebrations because we believe in freedom for all people. This project is a very special project. Mitchellville is the first town of self-governing formerly enslaved people in the United States, founded on Hilton Head Island in 1862. Our little group is trying to recover some of the history, reconstruct some of the buildings. We know where there was a church on our property. We know where houses were on our property. We found a historic brick hearth under the ground, which is still intact. That's about 160 years old. And so we're trying to take this history, bring it into the 21st century, and talk about a story that people don't know about. These folks had their own mayor, council form of government in the 1860s. It was founded before the Emancipation Proclamation in 1862. They had organized trash pickup. They had schools, churches, businesses. It was the site of the first compulsory education system. So first compulsory means mandatory school system in the state of South Carolina because education was very important to them. That's where real freedom was. And so we're trying to take those stories, present them in this 21st century context, and let people know about this landmark place in American history. This is a true American story. It is a pull yourself up by your bootstrap story, but these people didn't even have the boots for that. If you remember nothing else that I'm saying here, remember that these people went from being property to owning property. And that's an important thing for us to highlight. We're still talking about it now, 161 years after the fact. And so for more information about what we're doing here and how you might be able to get involved, please go to exploremitchellville.org. Mitchellville is MITCHELVILLE. So thank you so much. Exploremitchellville.org. Come check us out.
Here you go, man.
See those gray things there? Right on that marsh. Right on that marsh, there's an oyster. That's just a little bit.
You cook them or you get them?
It's not that roast it. Yeah. You can roast
I
it.
see people eat them.
You can eat it raw.
It look like it's slimy.
I don't like raw oysters.
Yeah, they say you're not supposed to eat them raw.
No, they're good for you. It's aphrodisiac, honey.
Huh?
See, you might ain't ready for that yet.
People we will be. This water tells my story. It holds my history. Let's pour some champagne in the ocean. Celebrate 'cause we're free. No more pain to bear. Liberation for we. Let's pour some champagne in the ocean. Celebrate 'cause we're free. No more pain to bear. Liberation for we. Let's go down to the water. Let's get clean. cleansed in the sea, purified by the ocean. Water baptize me. Let's go down to the water. Let's get cleansed in the sea, purified by the ocean. Water baptize me. How the water keep on? I don't know. Going on this journey to learn for sure. How the water keep on? I don't know. Going on this journey to learn for sure. The water healed my wounds. The fish filled my belly. Blue crabs in my soup. Oysters roasted under trees. How the water keep on? I don't know. Going on this journey to learn for sure. How the water keep on? I don't know. Going on this journey to learn for sure.
Okay.
Jesus is the rock in a weary land. Oh, Jesus is the rock in a weary land. Oh, Jesus is the rock in a weary land. Shouting in a time of storm. Oh, Jesus, rock my grandmother in a weary land. Oh, Jesus, rock my grandmother in a weary land. Oh, Jesus, rock my grandmother in a weary land. Shouting in a time of storm. Woo!
Let me not say that. We're not even here right now.
Okay, baby. There you go, fly. Go burn your mouth, honey. They laughing at you.
Are they chocolate chip?
He is sleeping good. He is sleeping good. That's
You got one more day.
Thank you for the motivational stories. I will see you tomorrow.
Yes,
And the
looking
food.
forward.
Thank you. Hey, let's see that.
I'm going to pour. I'm going to invite you all to speak and call out.
to the Williams family,
Reuben King Sr.,
James Whitaker,
Amelia Dolly,
The Miller family,
Anna Shaw Overstreet,
the Chisholms,
Judge Oak,
the Watts,
Judge Lowe, Julius Chisholm, Perry Chisholm,
William Simon,
Eugene Williams,
Florence
Sophie
Williams,
Singleton,
Florence Williams,
Dorothy Miller,
Charles Williams, Dorothy Miller,
Eugene Williams,
Essie Williams,
Miss Miller Bryan over there.
Reuben Chisholm.
Creator God, we thank you for these names
Name
and all the unnamed,
and those,
all the names we will never know.
yes, our Igbo ancestors.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I thought it too.
Ashe.
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 Turn around to Dodgy.
The red bird.
Headstone right there.
It just the red cardinal.
Crazy.
Ashe.
Ashe.
And the twisted mouth. Scent of magnolia, clean and fresh.
Right, so the cemetery it looked like it was pretty much overall, I would say, neglected in terms of its care. And it was surrounded by resorts and homes.
Here is a fruit for the crows to pluck. For the rain to gather, for the wind to suck, for the sun to rot, for the leaves to drop. Here is strange.
History right here. My ancestors
Tell him, Jordan.
made this out of like sand, hard, dry sand, and seashells. They did this. West African knowledge right here. A lot of history.
And we began to find a lot of interesting artifacts. We found a lot of animal remains, which wasn't too surprising because we knew that Mr. Barnwell's family had actually been using this structure as like a pen for animals, so that wasn't too surprising. But what was a little bit unusual is that we started finding things like pig's teeth. And Mr. Barnwell, who is the best repository of the history of the island for sure, because whenever we would have a question, we're like, I wonder what it was like then. We're like, oh, let's just ask. We'll just ask this gentleman. So he let us know that his family never kept pigs. So it could have been that maybe a family earlier, prior to when his family took over the property, maybe kept it, or it could also be from like wild boars as well. Or it could be just from much earlier people. So we found a lot of pig-related bones and teeth. And then we started to find different pieces of pottery. And pottery in archaeology is really interesting because that is something that can be really clearly dated. So when we are looking in the archaeological record, we need to look to what we call diagnostic pieces or diagnostic artifacts, right? An artifact is an item that we find in the ground that's going to tell us about the story of whatever it is that we're looking at. And so pottery becomes a really useful diagnostic because you can often pinpoint it to a particular place of manufacture and a particular time of manufacture. So think about our phones today, right? Our iPhones. We know exactly like the different models, right? We know when they were from, right? And well, also we can use your phone as well. If we see a phone like this, we know exactly when we can place it. We can look to cars. We can look to like beer bottles, right? Or Coke bottles, like Coca-Cola bottles. All of these things have a very particular time and place of manufacture. So, and it's the same thing with pottery. And so you have people who specialize in being able to what we call read pottery, and they're able to look at different pieces and they can tell you from the pattern on it, they can tell you from the composition, because it's broken open, they can tell from the composition, all of this different types of information. So pottery is a really, really helpful diagnostic. And so we began to find a significant amount of pottery inside here, and all different types of pottery. We found pottery that was imported from Europe. We found more locally based pottery, and we also found something called colonoware. Now, is that a term that you all have heard? Perhaps at Mitchellville? Colonoware? So colonoware is a type of pottery that was made by early African peoples in the US. And so it's a particular style and a particular technique of making pottery. And so that was really exciting. And so I will say that Dr. Dawson, the main archaeologist on the project, she's been doing archaeology since the 90s. And this was the first, although she had seen colonoware in different collections, it was the first time she had actually been on a project that had found it. And so if you ask her, if you say, because quite often archaeologists will be like, what's the most exciting thing you've ever found? Her answer is the Kelowna ware that was found here. And we found about maybe 5 pieces or so. I'm going from memory, so it might be a little off, but it was definitely fewer than 10 pieces. So that was really exciting for us, and that tells us a lot. So that's about the archaeology.
The building was built in the 1850s. It was built by like the 3rd documented owner of this property. They say it was never lived in because they were building it for fashion and stuff and convenience and to be very, very cool. And then something huge happened, 1861.
Civil War.
Thank you. It's interactive. I won't go forward unless I can answer. So, Civil War happens. The people who own this leave. They're gonna go away. Their names were the Grahams. I'm not gonna focus a lot on like the white people story because I don't frankly care, and neither do you probably. But what we are gonna talk about is the way in which it was part of a greater community that existed before and after white ownership. So when you go in the house, which you will at some point, there's the story of all the different owners of the property, paper receipt owners, and you guys can get that there, and it's informational. The point is to know that enslavement was very much like the economics of it was a lot like poker. So you had to have a whole bunch of money as a down payment. You put all of it into it, and if you don't get good returns in the first few years, you're bankrupt. So then you have to sell the property again and someone else tries. So it's pretty common for like one plantation, the Honeyhorn Plantation, to have a series of owners over 300 years because someone bought it, they invested things, it didn't work out. You know how like it's like Donald Trump's like small loan of $1 million situation? It's like rich people playing rich people games. Does that make sense? But the people who worked here were always the same. Or changed a little bit when folks came in. So the Grahams came here from Alabama, I think, in 1850, so they might have brought some folks with them. But there would have been a workforce sold with the estate. So the important thing for me to think about is there was a continual community here, probably from the 1730s, 40s, 50s onward. And like we know descendants of that community. I just honor the space. And I say that for real, not for bull purposes.
Is this where the lady that we met?
It might be. Her grandmother, great-grandmother Emma, is buried somewhere on property, and I think that this is the most likely spot. But there might be other cemeteries. No one's looked. So I'm on it.
What's the professional and respectful way about going about it?
So the professional and respectful way is exactly what I wanted to talk about, because all of you should have this information inside your noggin waves. So to figure out what's going on in this site, first of all, we need to find the edges. We have no idea where it ends, right? So we can't put a fence around it because it could be on someone's face. You need to find the edges. To do so, you have to have professional archaeologists, mortuary archaeologists to do that. We can do it in a non-invasive manner using ground penetrating radar, or we can do a poke test. It's a pressure test, which is what Tendaji and I have been doing on St. Helena. But that requires a professional to figure out what's underneath the ground, right? After that, it needs to be cleared and cleaned. We can also use ground penetrating radar to identify grave shafts. So I can roll an instrument over the surface of that ground, and every time it comes across a grave shaft, I will be able to tell where it is, and we can put up headstones or markers. Then we can put up a fence, markers, and then it needs a preservation plan, which is something that is written, the document that outlines what needs to happen to keep it safe and well. Does this sound expensive?
Yes.
Yes.
Extremely, especially for those instruments.
Not to mention how cluttered
Yes.
it is actually.
Yes, it sounds expensive because it is expensive to hire archaeologists, and ground penetrating radar and all that other stuff. So one of the things that I'm personally working on, and Tendaji happened to be working on, is doing this in this county. And so we are teamed up together. We need young people who are able-bodied to help us. And this isn't like a plea, but it's like a plea. If you want to help us clear things, then come back. You can stay with Tendaji or I, and we'll take you out there and you can help us bushwhack a cemetery. But also, everyone needs to become more literate about the process of applying for grants or funding, or where you can ask in your county, state, or federal level for assistance in this. The United States just passed a new federal law on February 2nd, 2022 called the African American Graves Protection Act.
It's on the news.
No, it's House Resolution 6832, I think. Don't quote me, and I can give you a better number.
What's it called again?
It is called the African American Graves Protection Act, and was passed February 2nd, 2022. That is the first federal legislation ever made or passed to protect Black cemeteries, Black graves, Black bodies that are deceased.
Well, I'm Dino Badger, I'm gonna speak as basket artist at Head Island.
And I am Michael Small, 7th generation basket sewer from Charleston, South Carolina.
And what's the importance of keeping this type of culture alive?
It's such a vital part of our heritage and our culture, and one of the lasting articles that was brought from Sierra Leone, West Africa, over 400 years ago when they were enslaved, brought and placed on the rice plantations.
And this is one of the baskets that they use on the plantations to cultivate and clean rice. This is called a rice spanner. This is a basket that was used to clean rice.
And y'all hand make those?
Yes, sir, we hand make these. And the materials that's in the baskets made of, you see your ground right here? This is your pine needles. It's on one of your materials. You see the wrapping right here. That's your permanent farm from your palm trees. And the beige right here, the sweetgrass. And right here is your bulrush. So you have several different materials that's natural that we sew into the vanilla baskets.
Wow.
I'm going back to the south. I'm going back, where my roots ain't watered down. Growing like a baobab tree of life on fertile ground. My ancestor put me on game, on charm, on gold chains, with my old shoe in a jail. Drip all on me. Uncle da she keep it. Holla, donuts, starlight, such a non-chopper instant. Yeah, pure ice, bust down, flood it, on my wrist out. Going up, melanin, drip on me. Melanin, my drip is skin deep like motherland, drip on me. I can't forget my history, it's her story. Yeah.
Freewoods Farm. We are in Burgess. So this particular area was called Freewoods Farm because during the time of enslavement, a lot of the enslavement system was not monolith. It was not all one way, right? And so within some of these communities, they would have something called a task system, where they would be told to do a certain amount. You were supposed to, collect a certain amount of whatever they were harvesting at the time. And for the rest of the day, once they had finished that task, they could kind of do what they wanted with the rest of their day. This area is a place where formerly enslaved people would come to hunt, to do their own gardening, their own farming, and so they would call this area Free Woods Farm. This is where they could come to be free from the plantation. Coming out of enslavement, the Sherman Order was read. You all heard a little bit about that, the 40 acres and a mule. And so community members were able to begin purchasing properties. And so the Smalls family, Mr. O'Neill Smalls, runs this particular farm. So it's a Black-owned farm. I'm not sure if you all remember the drummer from the libation ceremony. What is his name? John, thank you. John Smalls. He is also the nephew of Mr. O'Neill Smalls, and so he also has claim to this property as well. And so they are in the transition phase of figuring out how to turn this farm into a living museum. Behind us is a barn where we've had some events before. We really only have been able to come here at night, and so this is our first time in the daylight being able to really see the property. And so in here's their event space. There is a living space behind us. And we're gonna walk down to what they're hoping to curate an exhibit where they have inside some farm equipment, some old farm equipment, and they wanna be able to create some signage and interpretive information. And so this is another site that we could potentially collaborate with to help them develop their materials. Okay? Let's walk down.
Okay, my name is Matthias Grissom. I go by Matt. It's just a lot easier to say. So thank you guys for coming and visiting with us at Charlie's place. This area right here. This Carver Street is pretty much was the business district for African Americans. So which way did you guys come in, from 21st or from? Okay, so you guys came on Mr. Joe White Avenue. Okay, Mr. Joe White Avenue. Okay, that's his story. Mr. Joe White was an African American man that was actually a shoe stylist. He shined shoes for a living. And he worked at the Ocean Forest Hotel just as Mr. Charlie did. He shined shoes down there until they closed. And then Mr. Joe actually moved over to different barbershops to shine shoes. Then he settled in at Woody's Barbershop, just right down the street here, to shine shoes until he passed away. That used to be 10th Avenue. Mr. Joe was also considered the most trusted man in Myrtle Beach. He used to go to people's houses and clean their windows. And so people would leave their keys for him to go into their houses. In the 30s, that was unheard of. And so when they widened the street, they wanted to come up with a name, so they settled on Mr. Joe White. Now, you came down Carver Street here, you probably saw two churches. You probably saw San Diego Baptist Church and then Mount Olive AME Church. Those two churches were actually the schools for African Americans in this area before they built a colored school. So that was something historical. Then you probably passed by Ocean View Funeral Home. Ocean View Funeral Home used to be a dime store. African American man, Mr. Henry Bowens, owned a dime store, and that was his dime store. And then when he passed, his daughters turned it into a daycare, and they just recently sold it to a funeral home.
What's a dime store?
Okay, so a dime store is like you can go into the store, you can buy stuff for like a penny or a
like
dime.
a dollar store?
Yeah.
Oh, shoot, that's tough.
Yeah. And then before you got there to the funeral, you probably saw Carver Grove, which is an apartment building. Yes. That used to be Mr. Walter Gether's dime store. Mr. Walter never learned to really count, so people actually paid him pennies. So that was something interesting. And he had apartments behind his home. He had his dime store, his home, and then apartments behind his home. Now, one room he kept all his change in, so you didn't go to that room though, because he kept his gun on the side too. 18th Avenue, you probably passed 18th Avenue. 18th Avenue was actually donated to the city of Myrtle Beach for one reason. A lady across the street here, her name was Miss Avis Hayward. You probably saw the Garden of Hope over here on the other side of this building. That used to be a supper club as well. The Patio Casino. It was a big pink building. and of course she had apartments behind it as well. But she owned property from King Street, which is the furthest street in the neighborhood, all the way to 17. And so she donated that property with the stipulation that the city of Myrtle Beach had to cut a road from the community to 17. And so that property, that Garden Hope, is worth over $2 million. Wow. Just the property itself. Can we go there? Yeah, we can walk over there. We can walk over there.
What makes it so expensive? Is that comparative to other landmarks in the area?
It's just that it was a historical landmark. And when it was the Patio Casino, it was a big building, just like the supper club here was. And it served just as many people as Charlie's did. So Miss Avis's property ran from 17. This property here, her home is on the corner up here. So this property was her supper club, and then she had apartments going back to the next street. You have to go through.
It's fine.
Yeah.
But it might be classified.
Yeah. So her supper club is right there. And then all this is kind of apartments that she had there. Her property ran all the way to the 2 more streets over. This is her property. Yes. They sang on the patio. When she sang, her voice was so pure that the pine trees would whisper.
Yeah. Wow.
So they coined it Whispering Pines.
I mean, you can still put that.
So during the word, heard the name Whispering Pines, they're talking about the supper club.
Are you serious?
Yes.
You know, there's a place like right there by Philip called Whispering Pines. That's where we got that from.
No, I came from here.
No, I'm saying like that's where that name came from, like Whispering Pines. That's where that came from.
Well, here, yes.
That is crazy.
But you guys did hear about the bad times when because Charlie was allowing blacks and whites to mix, that the Ku Klux Klan came in and they did beat them severely. And when they left him for dead, they marked him. They cut his earlobes. So that was something that was kind of interesting, but he actually survived that. That was in 1950. Inside the house here, we have his death certificate, 1955. Now, I'm not sure if anybody knows, but his real name was not Charlie Fitzgerald. Go ahead.
So I was wondering, like, they were saying they attacked him in 1950. Between 19 and 1955, he was, I guess, put in jail for his safety. Do you think that's
not
where?
Not during the whole time, but they did put him in jail for a period of time for his safety.
I was wondering, did that jail stint, do you think, contribute to his health issues?
No, he was a heavy smoker.
Oh, okay.
He died of cancer.
circle.
I'm Justice, as they know me, but the enslaved name is John Smalls. I'm actually from the Freewoods community by the way of Burgess. It's out here at the outskirts of Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. But actually, I was playing the djembe today, D-J-E-M-B-E, which is has a very significance in the libations and in the ancestor ceremony, because as we know, this first sound that the world got, the universe got, was the sound of the heartbeat. The sound of the heartbeat is the djembe, which brings everything together. So it's the sound of the heart, it's the connection of the universe, connection of the elements, and it's a divine time, it's a divine place to have this at Ocean. So all we're doing is invoking that power and those positive affirmations that we speak and regurgitate or reverberate out of our mouth. Okay, so my father, Oscar William Smalls Sr., obviously you know, he's the ancestor. I am him. I wouldn't be here without him, but he was a very radical man here in the community. He always spoke at the county council meetings. He kept me along. He took care of the elderly, and we took care of the elderly. I was able to go inside these homes of these medicine women, these voodoo ladies, these healers, these priests. So all it did was impact my life. And as I traveled throughout the world, I found myself coming back to the elements and finding peace within nature and finding peace within my culture.
If you feel insignificant, you better think again. Better wake up, because you're part of something way bigger. You're part of something way bigger. Not just a speck in the universe, not just some words in the Bible verse. You are the living word. You're part of something way bigger. Bigger than you, bigger than we. Bigger than the picture they framed us to see, but now we see it, and it ain't no secret, no. Understand the truth about that question in your soul. Look up, don't look down, then watch the answers unfold. Life is your birthright, they hit that in the fine print. Take the pen and rewrite it. Step out your estimate, step in your essence, and know that you're excellent. Rise. Spirit is teaching, no, I'm not just preaching, I'm taking my own advice. Let mama let you know, mama's still trying, I can't get no days off. I don't get no days off, truly I'm feeling it. I had to say that thing twice. Trying to be a good wife, still really hard, I can't lie. But I promised you I would fight, so I fight. If you're feeling frustrated and you're sinking, I'm jumping in. Forgiveness is key because we're fighting something way bigger. You never lose, we are winners. I'll be the roots, you be the tree. That's on the fruit that was given to me. Legacy, we're part of something way bigger. Something way bigger. Bigger than you, bigger than we, bigger than the picture they framed us to see. Legacy, oh, you're part of something way bigger. Let love be the water I pour into you and you pour into me. There ain't no drought here, bloom into our actual powers. I'll be a sanctuary, you just don't know it yet. You just don't know it yet. No matter how hard it gets, you got my blood in you, and you're gonna rise. You're part of something way bigger. You're part of something way bigger. Bigger than you, bigger than me, bigger than the picture that painted us to be. Yeah. Ooh, ooh, you're part of something way bigger. Again, better wake up because you're part of something way bigger. You're part of something way bigger. I'll be the roots, you'll be the tree. Pass on the fruit that was given to me. Legacy, we're part of something way bigger.